everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the second half of December and the solar eclipse that we have coming up in Capricorn on the 25th or 26th of the month, depending on where in the world you live. Now, we have this tremendous sense of momentum moving into January 2020. All the planets are moving forward, moving direct, apart from Uranus, and so we have this sense of propulsion. And the eclipses, we are well into eclipse season already, because you feel that it has an orb of influence, an eclipse up to a month before and up to 6 months after. So we're feeling that kind of intensity as well from that. But before we get to the eclipse, just to say we have obviously the Capricorn solstice on the 21st of the month. And whenever we have solstices and equinoxes, I mean, the ancient peoples were very smart about this. They understood that the veil between ourselves and the subtle realms thinned, and they were more easily able to access information on solstice and equinox days, which is why they always held ceremonies at that time. And we know in a bigger context that our whole solar system is spinning out of an area where it's been for certainly all of our lives in a protective magnetic cloud, and into an area of the cosmos where it's never been before, which is partly why, with all the increase in cosmic and galactic energies coming into the Earth plane, many people are having real jumps in their consciousness. And eclipse time is very much time of quantum jumps as well. So 21st of the month, a very good time on the Capricorn solstice to meditate, to connect with the Earth, to find time just to be and be open to whatever information might be coming through to you. Then on the 25th of December, this is happening at 9:13 p.m. Pacific and 5:13 a.m. UK time. The next day on the 26th, we have a solar eclipse at 4 degrees and 6 minutes of Capricorn. Now, because this is in Capricorn as well, this is really going to set the tone for 2020, where we have an immense number of planets in the sign of Capricorn. I'll come back to that in a moment. But eclipses are really big new moons, super big new moons, so they're powerful new beginnings. So see where 4 degrees of Capricorn falls in your chart. And if you don't know, you can download a free birth chart from my website, pamgregory.com, and then you can just click on this link above and get a 2-part tutorial video series from my store that will explain how to find this aspect in your chart, and indeed any update I ever do, and what the meaning is for you. So you start to go on your astrological journey. So I'd really recommend that. So eclipses can only happen when they are close to either the North Node, the transiting North Node, or the transiting South Node. Now this is quite a complex eclipse because it's a solar eclipse, so a really big new beginning, a new moon. Don't forget to set your new intention at this time for what you want to manifest in the house area where 4 degrees of Capricorn falls for you. But it's a South Node eclipse. So this will tend to highlight, because it's conjunct the South Node in Capricorn, any abuse of power. Now this can be an abuse of power that we see out in the world. It can be highlighting how we've also used our own power or our own sense of responsibility, or have we given it away, our power and our responsibility? How have we used that? And this will tend to be highlighted at this time. Now remember that eclipses run in pairs of signs for about 18 to, in this case, 24 months, because we had our first Cancer Capricorn eclipse in July 2018. We'll have our last one in July 2020. So the Cancer Capricorn axis, again, see where it falls in your chart. It's very much about our emotional security, that's Cancer, and our practical security, that's Capricorn, and taking responsibility for ourselves. So usually a theme will be set up at the very first eclipse of that pairing. So think back to what was happening for you in July 2018, seeing where the house area is for you, will really help you. And see what has unfolded. What has been the theme in those opposing signs of Cancer, Capricorn, where they fall in your chart? What's been emerging as a theme or a lesson for you? Because the more that we can identify that, the deeper we will live in alignment with that cosmic wind that we have working in our favour. So it's ever so helpful to start to spot these and work at a deeper level. So going to be in Cancer Capricorn until July 2020, and then remember that the nodes always move backwards, retrograde, so the nodal axis will then move into Gemini and Sagittarius and activate another 2 opposing houses for you. Wherever the eclipses are falling for that period of time, 18 to 24 months, will be areas of activation and energy, things being energized in those areas of life. Now, always eclipses are pivot points. They're not linear, they're not gradual, they are wild cards, they're quantum jumps. They're often like Uranus transits, actually. There's a sense of intensity very often with them. We're jumped forwards on our path of destiny. Especially if we've strayed from it or become a little bit scattered, it will jump us back on that path of growth. Now, this is particularly important if your natal nodal axis falls in Cancer and Capricorn, because what you will be experiencing over this period of eclipses of Cancer Capricorn is either a nodal return in your chart, which only happens every 18.6 years, or an inverse nodal return. Now, both are very, very important in terms of your soul's growth, but it kind of happens at the soul level, so you have to be alert to it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I actually filmed a video companion series to go with my last book, How to Co-Create Using the Secret Language of the Universe, all about the nodes. So if you go onto the product page of my website, pamgregory.com, you'll find that video companion series, and you can buy that, not very expensive at all, you can buy that and study what the nodal return and the inverse nodal axis is all, the inverse nodal return is all about for you. So particularly important if your nodal axis is in Cancer and Capricorn, but it's important for all of us because it can jump us forwards. Now, solar eclipses are generally very positive because they're new beginnings. Particularly if the solar eclipse at 4 of Capricorn falls within about 4 degrees of your sun, your midheaven, or your ascendant, round about the time of this eclipse, you can be jumped forward in your prominence. You can seem to be shining before the world. It can increase your profile. You can get a benefactor or somebody who promotes your work. There's an increase in profile and prominence very often if it's conjunct. Conjunctions are the strongest with eclipses, your sun, midheaven, or ascendant. So just watch for that as well. So it can be super, super helpful in that way. We are also having a lunar eclipse happening in Cancer on the 10th of January. I'll be talking about that next time. But 2 countries that are very, very highlighted here with these powerful eclipses are the UK, because it's a Capricorn country, and the US, because it's a Cancer country. So, and I go into much more detail in my monthly newsletters about what is unfolding in both those countries, because clearly there is a lot. Now, we have a huge concentration of planets in Capricorn and in Earth in general. At the time of this solar eclipse, we've got 6 planets in Earth, and if you include Ceres, the goddess of grains and our food supply and our agriculture, you have 7. That's enormous focus on Earth, which suggests that the Earth, the environment, or possibly business or finance or money in some way, is going to come into greater prominence round about this time. It doesn't have to be exact on the day, but round about this time. Particularly issues around food supply may come in really quite strongly, more so as we get into January 2020. We haven't had this grouping of planets for 735 years, since 1285. That is one of the reasons that this time that we're moving through is so extraordinary, because it's very rare. The last time Saturn and Pluto were conjunct in Capricorn was 500 years ago. It's 1517. And certainly through the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, there's often a theme of the abuse of power that comes in. By 1517, it was thought to be the church and Martin Luther, etc. And I've mentioned this before. Now it may be governments which we see as corrupt, leaders we see as corrupt. And 2020 will be an even bigger year than 2019 in terms of corruption being revealed, because that will accelerate this collapse of the patriarchy, this collapse of the old order, the old power structure, the leadership structure. And don't fret, don't worry about that. That is meant to be the process that we're going through, because it's only through the collapse of that side of density, of scientific materialism, of the things that have been very weighty. There's a feeling of contraction with this, very, very much connected to the 3D paradigm. It's only when that collapses that we can move on to something very different. So, and I really do think 2020 is about the collapse of the 3D paradigm. So, enthusiastically welcome that, because we have very different energy being offered to us at this time. At the time of the solar eclipse, in fact, all through December, it's exact on the 15th of December, we have Jupiter at 3 degrees of Capricorn, tightly trying to Uranus at 3 degrees of Taurus. This is a beautiful trine. It continues through the second half of December all the way through, but it's exact on the 15th. Now, this is wonderful for manifestation because it's in earth signs, both Taurus, Capricorn in earth signs. If you have any planets or angles between about 2 and 4 degrees of the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, or the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn again, you may feel some financial bonus coming in, some extra recognition, some unexpected opportunity coming in for you. So it's very beneficial. Now, just like the second half of November, the second half of December highlights Jupiter and Uranus. And that's because apart from this beautiful exact trine between Jupiter and Uranus, Jupiter is tightly conjunct the Sun and the Moon. Sun and Moon at 4 degrees of Capricorn, Jupiter at 3. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, higher consciousness, positivity, exuberance, optimism, reaching out to the cosmos to better understand our place in the world, the interrelatedness of the universe. Uranus is tightly trine to the Sun and Moon, and this is the planet of freedom, awakening. Both of them together are visionary. They're very future-oriented. They have an urge to move away from the old status quo and live more freely, more independently, maybe live outside the system, be attracted to some kind of alternative lifestyle, that kind of thing. But because Uranus is the planet of awakening, because it is linked to fourth dimensional reality where time and space start to fade away and we're much more connected to the mind of God. And Jupiter is about really much bigger horizons. Together they can form this electrical just bubble of possibility and potential that feels very exciting. It's very exuberant. But we have to take the jump. We have to take the risk towards something very different. I'll come back to that a little later. So other things happening at this solar eclipse, we have a square between Uranus and Venus happening. That is actually exact on the 22nd, but it's very tight on the solar eclipse 25th, 26th. This can either bring about some restlessness in relationships where you want more freedom, you want more independence, you want to break away. It could see sudden changes in currencies because Venus always has the generalized meaning of currencies. And indeed, if we look at the bigger context, Uranus is going to be moving through Taurus, ruled by Venus. It's linked to currencies all the way through to 2026. So at any time, we could see these big shifts in wealth, in currencies, in values. We are going to be dramatically changing our values, all of us, from this kind of material density, working for profit, a type of mindset that we've all had, getting a home for life, a job for life, etc., into something that currently isn't visible for us. It's much more malleable, it's much more quantum, but we have to trust before we can see it and feel it and experience it, that is the energy we've got to follow. That we have to just leave this collapsing 3D paradigm behind, and we have to, as I said in the last video, we kind of have to hitch our wagon to a higher star and go with that feeling of trusting in our ability to co-create in a really quantum and much bigger way. And it's about recognizing our power as co-creators. I feel that just incredibly strongly. There's going to be a whole shift from living from the outside in to the inside out. And that's why I'm always encouraging us to be very aware of our frequency, our vibration. The other aspect that's worthy of mention at this solar eclipse is that the solar eclipse itself, sun and moon, are square to Chiron, tightly square. Chiron is on the world axis at 1 degree of Aries. So there may be something at that time that needs our healing in some way. There could be some development, some happening, needs our healing. And we're going to be rushing with energy, as I say, into 2020. And this solar eclipse will very much set the tone for 2020 because it's in Capricorn. So I'd like you to be very aware, not getting caught up in the drama, not getting caught up in the angst, knowing it's meant to collapse, but being aware of what's unfolding in the world, simply to observe. Astrology is magnificent to allow us to have perspective and observe what is unfolding, but not get caught up in the angst if it's turbulent. Equally, to observe what's happening in your own life and to come back to that center, that hub of the wheel from which we can really operate our lives. And remember that we are dreaming our future into being at every moment. When the future is coming down the track, we're not separate from that. It's not being imposed on us. We are an important part of that creation of our future. And as I mentioned, I think it was in my last video, if just 1% of us in the universe can get together and really boost our frequency to a very high level, that will change collective consciousness so that our future unfolds very differently. As astrologers, we never ever know how the symbolism is going to unfold. And I want to say that really loudly and clearly. Unless we're super psychic, we can't see the events or the experiences. We can only read the symbolism. It's down to our individual and collective consciousness to see how that unfolds. So that's really important to say too. But be aware of this fork in the road. Be aware of the immense Capricorn energy that is really signaling this collapse of the old, and yet this exuberant tsunami of quantum wave of new possibility and awakening coming in for us too. So the other thing I'd like to mention at this time, the Shift Network are organising a global meditation on the 12th of January. There's only one day next year when this big conjunction between Saturn and Pluto happens, and it's on the 12th, so the meditation is on that day. The time of the meditation, I believe, is 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'll put the link below this video, and then you can work out how to link in from your particular time zone. But just know this is a super important period for the world, a super important period for each of us. So the more we can understand the astrological patterns and energies being made available to us at this time, the better we will navigate what's coming up for us in the next few months. So I hope that's helped you. If you'd like more information about my books, my teaching videos, my ever so long monthly newsletter, and I go into a lot more detail on specific countries or events that are happening, you can subscribe on any page on my website, pamgregory.com, right at the bottom. And thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to set your clear new intention for what you want to manifest at this solar eclipse at 4 degrees of Capricorn, Christmas Day and Boxing Day, if you are celebrating those. May I wish you all a wonderful holiday period. If you take holiday at this time, a wonderful festive period, and we'll be talking about next year when I post the next video at the end of December. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.